I'm Vanessa Joy here with Shutter Mag, and in this edition we are talking all about prints and albums. As a photographer, is it your responsibility to do the printing as well? I think it is. I think as a photographer, bringing your client from beginning to end means from conceptualization to tangible product. Otherwise, you're not giving a full service. You're leaving them to their own when they have to go print it. And you know what happens? 80% of the time, they're not printing anything. And your hard worked photos that you work so hard on, they're just gonna end up in some hard drive somewhere, never to be seen again, never to be passed on from generation to generation. Or that left of the 20% of people that are going to print them, they're gonna print them on places that just aren't going to do a good job. The colors won't match. They'll mess with your exposure. They'll probably throw Instagram filters on them, save them out from Instagram, and then print them, which will look horrific. So, part of your job as a photographer in providing a beginning to end, A to Z, alpha to omega experience is printing. So how can you do this in a way that satisfies your clients and it ends up being something that they want versus something that you are pushing on them? Number one, you don't want to be salesy. Anytime that I'm sitting down right here, actually in front of my clients, and we are designing their album, which yes, most of my packages, if not all, I do sometimes have exceptions, at the very beginning have a base album in them. So they are usually sitting here doing a virtual chat and we go over their album design together. My job when we're doing their album design, it's not to sell them more things. That's not what's in my head. That's a bad place to start. My job is to guide them to the best possible outcome that their budget allows. I know, I admit, most of them have budgets. Might be more or less, but the last thing I want to do is know that they have a budget or know that they don't want to spend extra money and then force them to spend extra money. Regardless of how much you make, it's not worth what your reputation will be when they start talking about you and then kind of frown because they have a bad taste in their mouth because they spent more than they actually wanted to or could. I certainly don't want to be responsible for anyone going into debt. So that's your goal. Number one goal is to be a guide. Number two, you have to be a good guide. If you have a client that comes in, I'm always going to use weddings as an example. If you have a client that comes in, wants to wants to do a wedding with you, wants to do an album, and then you go, oh yeah, go ahead, pick out pictures, I'll design an album for you. That's also not a complete service. They've never designed a wedding album before. They haven't the slightest idea how to do that. And if they do it, they're not going to pick good pictures, they're not going to pick enough pictures, and they won't pick the right pictures. I think it is your job as a photographer to choose how to tell the story. You've captured the story, now it's your job to tell the story and to finish telling it in that complete album, or even if it's as much as telling the story correctly on a piece of wall art, maybe a collage of canvases or something like that. You know how to put that together so it matches. You know how to put it together so it flows and it doesn't miss any parts of the day. Now, I'm not telling you that you're going to take over the entire album design. Of course not. It's their album and it's their choice ultimately. But if you're going to be a good guide, you're going to get them started on the right foot. And to do that, you need to give them a visual representation so they can more accurately make changes. Third thing, bring them in on the creative process. I do not agree with having an album done, sending it off via email, and then they send changes back. They have no idea what they're doing, even with their changes. So have them part of the creative process by doing those changes and alterations in their album live, in person. One, they'll start to see if they are making bad decisions when it comes to designing. And, by the second or third design change where it's not a good idea, they'll stop making that same mistake. Secondly, it's also really nice for them to deal with the pain of changing all the album designs. So they're giving the same kind of time commitment you are. And then third, when you bring them along on the creative process, that creative process actually gets done. I usually spend about 2 to 3 hours with my clients going over their album designs, and I know it seems like a lot, but you want to know what's longer? 2 to 3 years when you are chasing them down for photo selects and edits and back and forth and approvals. That wastes time and money. So dedicate the time now to guide them through a process, be a good guide, and bring them in on the creative process. And then you will be an alpha to omega photography studio servicing your clients from shooting to printing. I'm Vanessa Joy here for Shutter Mag. I will see you next month.